Hey, listen up, y'all. I'm gonna shout out this young gun right here because he's trying to do his thing. Joseph Jaffe, not famous. Probably rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm famous because, he not famous. And he like, yo, let me call my famous friends and see if they'll shout me out and make me more famous, sir. Right? But so, Joseph Jaffe, man, it's cool. You got your late night talk show popping off. That's what's dope. Streaming, been doing your thing, man. Started this in March of the 2020, which is, tough throughout the years, but booking great guests, man. Jamal Mashboard, James Rollins, steady building it, man. Keep it popping off, man. Keep building your brand, man. Believe in yourself. Keep going hard, all right? That's what it's all about. One of these days, this little acronym of yours, not famous, is not going to be true. People going to see you in the mall and be like, I know who you is. Them going to be your cousins saying it all incorrect like that. But you know what I'm saying? You know what you going to do. What you going to do? They family. All right, bro. I'll holler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is CeeLo Green, and you are now tuned in to Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, he is not famous at all. Check out this new streaming show. It is perfect. And if you don't, fuck you.
This is my best kind of show notes. We didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Like Scooby-Doo.
Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your seat.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
how
insane.
Did I do that?
You're insane.
Today is definitely Take Your Dog to Work Day because something has spooked Sammy and he is just barking like a flippin' dog, if it can be said. That's how much he's barking. Well, it is August 18th and welcome to another day in the crazy world that we call the great, what do we call this world now? The great pause, the great resignation. Who knows and who cares? But I care about you, and I care about the fact that today we've got Åsk Wäppling. I didn't even ask her how to pronounce Wäppling, but I think it's Åsk Wäppling. But she said, just call me Dabs. And love this image, by the way. What a beautiful, beautiful photo. I met Åsk. I don't even know if we were on the same show ever together, but we both met directly or indirectly through a podcast called the Beancast, or as you Americans would say, well, I'm actually an American citizen, but as you born Americans would say, a podcast. So I met her on a podcast, the Beancast, with Bob Knorpp, who's been a guest on the show before. Shout out to Bob. And you know what? I tell you, some pretty smart people have been on that show, like Åsk, and then other times myself when he's been very hard up and he's needed another guest. So I'm excited about bringing her on soon enough. Now, I will tell you, and I've been forgetting to say this, that we're going to be making some interesting changes here with the live format. I will continue live because I believe in live. I believe in reinventing the talk show, which means not canned, not pre-produced, no laugh tracks, unless, of course, it's from a roadcaster. But other than that, I'm going to keep doing it live. But what I'm going to start to do is collapse all of the channels. At the moment, we're live on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and, I don't know, some other channels. Twitch, we're live on Twitch. Hello to my one fan on Twitch. And of course, YouTube. But what's going to happen is everything is going to now start to go through one channel, and that one channel might even close. So the only people that will be able to actually watch live will be people that are on the Discord, or people that are part of the community, or people that have a JAFFE coin, for example. That's all it's going to take, just one JAFFE coin. And right now, you see that little QR code. If you actually have 10 JAFFE coin, you are now what is considered to be a fan, and that means you can claim JAFFE coin, 0.1 JAFFE coin. So 5 shows, that's half a JAFFE coin. 2 weeks of watching live, you've got yourself a JAFFE coin, or you could just buy one. But the bottom line is, what I'm really doing is recognizing and rewarding engagement. I'm recognizing and rewarding you. I'm also acknowledging, for example, Glenn, he has the role in the Discord of a super fan. He holds a minimum of 100 JAFFE coin. And there you go. Now, Glenn, you're watching on Facebook, but things are going to change soon. And I will let you know if and how and when and why and what and how come and how much. But Glenn is back from travel and vacation, and he loves the live show. Well, you will continue to watch it. It will be easily accessible. And this way, it will be very small and intimate. You see, I have to tell you, one of the things that I've been struggling with, and it's so great that we're talking about data today. In fact, I think in Built to Suck, in my 5th book, or maybe it was 0, I actually had a little chapter called Big Data, Big Dummy. Or big dumbass, because with all the data running around or swimming around, or the big data, we still don't even know how to use it properly. That's why we need people like Åsk to help us with that. But for the most part, we haven't quite figured out how to scale intimacy, automate humanity. We haven't been able to do that. And so one of the things I've been worried about is there's going to come a time when this show will be, I call it the scroll of death, where so many people are commenting that the intimacy is gone, that I'm not able to see Glenn's comment and put it on screen because it's just going to be moving. The scroll's going to be moving too quickly. So the best way to consolidate and keep things intimate is to move things not behind a paywall or a walled garden, but just a little bit of a step that people have to take. And then I can take the show and I can post it on YouTube and LinkedIn and so on and so forth and premiere it on YouTube. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. So just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. Also, Alpha Collective, there is a lot happening right now. And for those of you that have been following, next week, there will be a free mint to supplement the paid mint. So you will buy a lot of mint, basically. If you like mint choc chip, you're going to love next week. And what's really going to happen is you're going to have the ability to mint into, for free, a pared down or scaled down version of Alpha Collective. Now, hopefully, it will be a bit of a freemium model for those of you that are familiar with freemium models. And it's not a bait and switch. You can stay within the free mint zone and still take advantage of 52 Alpha Talks delivered by 52 Alpha Talk speakers across 52 consecutive weeks. But there'll be a whole bunch of things you might not be able to access. And so you can either go in through the pay door or the free door. Now, if you want to get a pass for free, here's what you got to do. What you got to do is just be aware, be in touch. I can tell you that it's going to be next week. It's probably going to be later than Wednesday and earlier than Friday, but don't kind of rely on that because it could change. But there are 3 ways to be notified. One is you can sign up for email at alphacollective.xyz. 2, you can follow Alpha Collective's Alpha's Gonna Make It handle on Twitter. Or 3 is join the Discord, discord.gg/Alpha Collective. And really, I've been leaning into this Discord. I was talking to Åsk in the green room, and she actually uses Discord for business. And we have a lot in common because we both hate Slack with a passion. Wait, am I allowed to say that? Well, you can count me twice. But the thing is, I just love Discord. I love it for personal. I love it for professional. I love it for community. And so I've been leaning into that with this collective cafe, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are meeting and we're discussing thought leadership and debating, and we're writing a book in 7 weeks. everyone who contributes to the book, even just by being in the cafe, you will actually get royalties to the book in perpetuity. And there's just been so amazing conversations. Today, we discussed this idea of guilty, this idea of guilty by association. If you associate yourself with the wrong people, with the wrong communities, with the wrong leaders, does that rub off on your own social capital and influence? And I've been having a lot of fun with some IP that I've developed around Ponzi communities versus ISNOP, which is Ponzi backwards communities. Not Ponzi schemes, but Ponzi top down. Leader is at the top. ISNOP bottom up. Leader is at the bottom. But the ultimate community will be one where the leader is not present, because the leader is like a good moderator, like the old-fashioned children seen but not heard. And another one that I was playing with recently is selfish versus selfless. We always hear people saying, choose you, choose yourself, but not choose yourself at the expense of others. Choose yourself in order to choose others as well. So a little bit of fun going on, but now it is time for our seated soliloquy. And today, the seated soliloquy is called Creative Data. Now, we're going to be talking about data and creativity. I'll tell you, some things do not mix. One of them that shouldn't mix is the idea of social media. Social, you and me hanging out, maybe having a beer, IRL or whatever. Media comes from the word medium, neither rare nor well done. Media is oil, as in snake oil. Social is water. It's oxygen. But water specifically, without it, we die. We know that water and oil don't mix, and yet we took social and media, we put them together, and we expected them to work. It doesn't necessarily. The other thing is creativity and accounting. Generally, when you put those two together, somebody ends up in jail. So don't do that. But what about creativity and data? Well, Åsk's title is Creative Director and Chief Technology Officer. And so you don't get a clearer depiction of where the world is going than that title, bringing together the worlds of creativity and data. Now, you wouldn't think that they gel, and maybe they do and maybe they don't. One seemingly is completely left brain. The other one seems to be completely right brain. But when you put them together, amazing things can happen. And I remember the example that I've presented many times in many keynotes, where I actually show it for Nike, where they ended up sending 5 million videos out to their 5 million active Nike Plus at the time users. And so I got a customized, personalized video that said, Joe, this was your year, depicted how many miles I ran, what that equivalent was. It was like running from Los Angeles to San Francisco. It indicated my ultimate, which was running the New York Marathon, and set me a challenge for the next year. So that's my take on creativity and data. I cannot wait to hear what Åsk has to say. And let's bring her onto the show. But first, let me tell you a little bit about her. Stemming from a long line of engineers, she was the black sheep, maybe the red sheep, who went to art school, but somehow still ended up in tech. You can't fight nature. Aside from building Adland, the incredible Adland.tv, as the world's first video platform dedicated to ads back in 1996. I don't even know if was the internet around in 1996, was the web? I think it was. That must make her a pioneer. She's worked at tech startups on secure, federated EID systems. That sounds, did I say fed? That sounds complicated. And on intranets at Ericsson. So not only does she probably know a lot about data and a lot about privacy, she probably knows a lot about security as well. Let's welcome her on the show. Åsk, welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I say welcome back because we've been hanging out for 15 minutes.
We were just chatting and drinking coffee in the green room. That was fun.
We were drinking coffee, and we're actually going to talk about coffee today. And in fact, I'm just going to go straight into it. So the craziest thing happened to me which was I was playing around with Apple, with Apple's health app, and like the data is incredible. You know, stuff about like audible levels and whether I'm exposed to decibel levels that can impact my hearing. That's all coming from my Apple Watch. But generally what I do is I just say yes to integrate health data with everything, because I want dashboards. I want data. I want to, what do they call it? The internet of me. I want all of that. What do they call it? Quantified self. And then I saw this, and it said you had an average of 368 milligrams of caffeine over the last 7 days, and started telling me about that I drank more caffeine last week. And I was like, what the hell is this? How the
Not
hell?
good for you. You should not drink that much.
Well, how does it know, though? That was my question. How does it know I'm drinking coffee?
Well, it can tell by your heartbeat, probably. You're drinking something that's a stimulant.
Well, I might be doing a lot of other things that might be
They probably know the difference.
Uh-oh. But here's my theory. So this is my Ember mug. And the Ember mug is, it has an app, and it keeps my coffee to a certain temperature. And I'm thinking it has to be that what I actually did was I connected this or connected it to Apple Health, but still I don't understand how it knows that it's caffeine versus decaf, and how it knows the difference between coffee and tea.
Yes, that is very interesting.
I'm calling it creepy data. It's a new term.
It is. It's very creepy, actually, how much things know about you. You know, there's these rings you can buy that also keep track of all your heartbeats and heart rate and whatever, and connects to your phone. And I don't know why anybody would do that willingly. But you're doing it. But I would never do that. I don't.
Well, I didn't think I was doing it. That's the problem.
Well, when everything can think, everything can be connected. We can have like my refrigerator knows what I'm eating and putting in there, and that's out in the cloud and everything. So I've become slightly obsessed with declouding everything. I don't want to be connected to Google. I was really hesitant giving out a Google Gmail to you, so I didn't want to open a Google Doc.
I mean, that was, what did they say? Paranoid much? Probably with cause. I mean, you know a little bit more than I do, don't you?
Yeah, and I've gone through dozens of Google accounts because I killed them all off, because I don't want a collected pile of data. And to de-Google a phone is a process, because everything you have in an Android is pretty much connected to Google. So I've been looking at other phones that run Linux alikes and stuff like that, so I can stay completely away from the Android platform.
All right, we're going to talk about de-Googling in a moment, but I will tell you that what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to avoid my Ember mug tomorrow and see what happens to supposedly my caffeine intake. I'm actually going to have a bit of fun. I might even, I won't drink it because I find decaf to be, just, I don't know, ungodly. I find it to be, the
a disappointment.
No, it's worse than that. It's more, it's almost as heinous as Slack. That's how bad it is. By the way, if Slack wants to sponsor the show, don't bother, because I hate Slack. What part of I hate Slack? What part of I hate Slack did you not understand? No, we're just kidding. We love Slack, not really. But yeah, so I'm going to have fun. I'm going to fill this Nespresso with decaf, and then I'm going to throw it down the toilet where it belongs, and then see whether in fact it identified decaf or not. And if it did, I think I might be de-Googling. Or
wait, so you have an espresso machine too? Like I'm trying to make everything by hand.
Oh shit! I have it's the Nespresso machine.
You have too many things that talk to the internet.
So look,
it really is the Internet of Things. We're surrounded by it now. Like our glasses are talking to the internet. It's like our Ray-Bans. It's wild.
So Anthony Calumet. He's also a Beancast alum. He said decaf was created by Satan. This is my point exactly.
It probably was. And I'm trying to remember now, which we were on Beancast at the same time, you and I. I just can't remember if it was several episodes or a specific one. Because the only one I really recall the name of is Boobies and Kittens. And George Parker was on that too.
Good old George Parker. He wrote some raving lunatic comment on on the second coming of Joe Jaffe, which was an article about me going all in on Web3, and he was like, I think he finally, George, who probably lost it a long time ago, finally just gave up on me, and probably rightly so. But we love you, George. I got to figure out how to get him on the show, but I'm not sure that he can handle the technology, so we'll see.
Well, his sons could help him.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, I absolutely love George.
I'll drive to Idaho and help him. I don't mind. I'll get him a beer and some Beska Droppar and whatever else he likes to drink.
Well, I mean, listen, it might be far getting to Idaho from Sweden, but that's another story for another day. But before we go on, we have a little fun facts section of the show. I've got to go and get myself a little stinger, and I've been meaning to do that as well. Fun facts, or something like, as ridiculous as you see on the late night talk shows. But who wants to know the deep, dark secrets of dabs? Well, we sent our investigators into the field, and we found out that there is a macabre, dark, deathly side to her. It turns out that her first job was in a funeral parlor where she made wreaths and hand printed the messages on the silk ribbons like beloved mother, etc. And apparently was also in 6 Feet Under. So what did you learn from the dead besides the fact they don't talk back?
Well, the thing I mainly learned was that the guys who drive the hearse never laugh, because I played a practical joke on them almost every day just to get them to crack up, and they never laughed. I don't know if they were doing that as a practical joke on me or not, but they were always like come in their suits and look like, death themselves, just really stone-faced. And I gave them I made wreaths for them that were hilarious, and they just didn't even crack a joke. Like not smiling at all. I don't know if they ever went into the car and then giggled.
I'm thinking that they completely were pulling a fast one on you. That's what I'm thinking, because I mean, sometimes you have to laugh, and probably in those situations, right? Those are going back to advertising, right? Those are the most surprising situations that generally, if you can find the humor in death, right? In something so serious, or if sometimes in something that is so sublimely ridiculous, to find something that's serious in that, these are the moments that people notice, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, I wish I could translate. Well, I'll do it anyway. The pun I put on a wreath for them was that, so a hearse in Swedish is likbil, which is, body car, but lik is also alike. So the pun I wrote was min bil är inte lik din bil, det är en likbil, which, as you can hear, rhymes very nicely. So it's my car is not like your car, my car is a hearse.
I mean, they love it. They love it. And I don't think I've done both before. It sounds like a tongue twister. The leak police dismiss us. I just screwed it up. But the leak, try and do that for me 3 times fast. Go.
Min bil är inte lik din bil, det är en likbil. Min bil är inte lik din bil, det är en likbil. Min bil är inte lik din bil, det är en likbil.
Did you get it right? I have no idea.
Yeah, I got it right.
I have no idea if you even got it right. All right. So what else did? So speaking of, from going from the ridiculous to the sublime. I mean, you've had a hell of a life. By the way, it's not Where's Waldo, it's Where's Åsk. It probably wasn't very hard to spot you in a crowd, but this is crazy. You lived in Saudi Arabia in the 80s, which I imagine was, very progressive with respect to women, especially with red hair. And once flying to Sweden, you got caught in the siege of Beirut. You were forced to land in Lebanon on your 10th birthday. That must have been fun.
That was freaky. I had a very good mother when it came to moving about like that, because we knew that we weren't supposed to be landing. So when I noticed that the plane was landing, I'm like, wait, what's going on? And she's like, oh, it's just a thing. They're gonna just, somebody needs to get off the plane or something in Beirut. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we'll be fine. We'll be fine. So what I didn't know was that it's the Israeli Air Force that says no passenger planes can be flying here because we're literally shooting rockets at everything that moves at this point. So everybody just get down. And so that's why we landed. And so when we come to the Beirut airport, they go through our suitcases in the customs or whatever it was. And that's when I realized there's a lot of soldiers everywhere and there are fresh bullet holes in the walls. So I understand that this is far more serious than my mother made it out to be. And we hung out, I can't remember how long, somewhere in the airport. And I ended up playing soccer with a bunch of soldiers.
Wow,
and
that's crazy.
That's all I can remember from it. And that I didn't have the correct money when I went to the ladies' room. So I couldn't pay the little lady who cleans the ladies' room. And I felt really bad about that.
Well, listen, thank God you don't remember too much. And also, let's hope those aren't repressed memories. But we've gone from the from the sublime to the ridiculous to the sublime. Let's end up, I think, back maybe in the ridiculous. I couldn't even think about how to represent the story. But you and your brother have a little competition running around the house, the outside of the house, in your undies at kind of Christmas, New Year's break. And you are currently leading the cold record with, this is crazy. It's basically the same. It's minus 42 Celsius, which is also pretty much minus 42 Fahrenheit.
Yep.
How, why, what, where, when?
Well, he started doing it. Yeah, we still do it, but it's gonna take him a moment to beat that one because that was 1998, and I think that was a cold record. So that day I was like, I'm doing it, and somebody waited for me on the other side of the house. It's very cold, barefoot, underwear only, and they waited for me on the other side of the house. So there's a photograph of me coming running with the flash on and everything, and I'm like, whoa! But you can see that I feel like this is just the coldest ever because I'm like all tense. So yeah, it was pretty cold.
Okay, so can you? I assume you could even get you probably could get frostbite from running around just in that kind of temperature and in like 30s.
Yeah, you have to be pretty quick. I mean, if I would be out in the day, and I was out in the day during that cold snap, that's full balaclava when I'm going on the sleigh, and you have like all this frost in your eyelashes, which is always interesting because it melts off when you get inside. Icicles on the eyes.
So this is you, basically. I didn't realize.
It is.
I was trying not to depict anyone in their undies. So now, Åsk, we'll get into the main topic of conversation, which is data. But I want to ask you a few questions. And one of the things we call this the voice of God camera angle. But when I was looking at your arm and I saw a tattoo, and I was thinking to myself, we spoke about rings, we spoke about creepy mugs, etc. We spoke about the quantified self. At some point, I mean, you've probably seen conductive ink throughout your career. You may even be aware of this, but I don't think it's a leap to think that eventually body ink will be conductive ink, and you could very, very, with an arm tattoo or a sleeve, you might very well be able to get certain data, diagnostics, etc. Is that? I mean, I can really see it happening, but I don't want to you might be like Joe. They've been doing that for 20 years.
No, I mean, it's not too far away, but they don't do it with conductive ink. They do it with little thin sort of circuitry that you could put inside, or you could shoot in like friends of mine have these little pills that you inject into here that they can open doors with because they are like NFID able things. So you can program it to open doors and whatever, and then you can get into the office. I know loads of people who have biohacked that way.
Wow. So basically you just do that and suddenly you're like.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You might as well just use your phone because you have it on you anyway. That's
also true. But I actually think, the whole bioscience and biosciences, it's a very, very interesting, it's a very interesting place to explore. But then we get into, and I think this is like exactly what we're going to talk about, the concept of, creepy data, or let's not even talk about creepy data. Let's just talk about the fact that we're swimming in all of this data, and for the most part, we don't know what to do with it. Let's start off with advertising. Let's talk about the fusion between creativity and data, between having all of this measurable, quantifiable data with the qualifiable approach of being able to understand our consumers, the account planning role, the ability to actually use this to better understand them and therefore better connect with them. Tell us about how far have we come, or how far have we not come as an industry trying to figure out how to bring these two worlds together?
I think we've come fairly far. I mean, it's been like data was used like a tool to bludgeon away the creativity from something for such a long time. And then now other people have discovered that you can actually be creative with what data you're choosing, such as the example that you used where Nike was telling you how much you ran one year and like what Nike has collected about you. And then you have like other examples such as the Spotify campaign where they just made a hilarious campaign about, this song was played 1 billion times, or one user listened to this like 77,000 times last year. Like, who hurt you? And it was, they made some pretty funny headlines based on data that they could see of their users' habits, and not one particular user in itself. And that way they spoke to the entire audience on the street, which I think is far more interesting than tailoring a message to a person, because we've been doing that for decades anyway. So, I mean, the tailoring a message to a specific person can only get so interesting. It's the same thing over and over again, more or less.
I kind of love this. I love this juxtaposition, which is it's a classic from to, right? From data destroying creativity to data enabling or enhancing creativity. And in the case of Spotify, because we've always been on this mission, which is, what if we could have 1 million different messages to 1 million different people? And instead, what you're saying is just being able to tell the one story about the crazy person who listened to one song 77,000 times, that can then be internalized by 1 million people 1 million different ways.
So yeah, I think it's more fun to see like what data reveals about the users in a larger perspective, rather than focusing on the single users, which is like a little too simple, put it that way. I mean, you can see more broader patterns of what's happening and what people are doing if you look at a broader perspective. But to me, data is something that I feel like, you say there's so much data out there about us and our consuming habits. I really am concerned about privacy, and I wish that there were ways that we could take back the data and use it, because like advertisers are always keen to talk to us, so they will stalk us on the internet. And if I'm looking at, like I just bought a credenza today in gold, so I'm going to be stalked for like the next 3 months with gold credenzas that are cheaper than the one I bought, which is always annoying. But I want to use the data about my habits to buy, access to other things. You know what I mean? So if I have if I listen to Spotify 1 bazillion times, I could download this data and go and prove to a band that I listen to a lot that I listen to them all the time, and then get VIP access. And the band would be grateful because they're like, oh, we can see the data where people are listening to us. So maybe we should go tour in that city because we have so many fans there. We're not using the data properly. There's a disconnect in the fact that the data is siloed away over at Google or over at Spotify or over, it's if we could give the data back to the individuals, and the data could be used by the individuals to what they are super fans of, we could create a totally different conversation between the people who are selling something and the people who really want to buy something.
So you're touching on two very interesting topics. The one is this idea of take back the data, and that, in a way, it conjures up doxils, and it conjures up the intention economy, and it conjures up Web3 and blockchain in particular. So I want you to expand on that. But then also, right at the end, you spoke about super fans. And I love the fact that you're talking about a specific use case, which is what we should be actually using data for, is to really connect with our super fans, with our most loyal, we need to figure out where, almost going back to Spotify, we need to actually use data to create these, to find the anomalies, the extreme use cases, and then be able to build around that. And that typically will more often than not be the super fan. That's more useful than someone who, attrition or defected to your competitor, which is, what we know brands do, right? They only care about acquisition and not retention. So two big meaty topics. You can handle any one or both in whatever order, but I would love for you to chat about the Web3 component and the idea of individuals owning their data. And then the second one is maybe the super fans.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the concept of us being able to own our data. And I thought with the GDPR that we would be able to request everything quite easily from the services that we've been using. And maybe they would, be forced to create APIs where I could just hook into it and download all of the stuff that I've been doing at these various places. But it hasn't quite turned out that way. I can easily download everything from Google. I can easily download everything from one of the larger services, but it's not like I can create something as an API that hooks into all of these things. So I could, for example, prove by my Spotify, my iTunes, and my YouTube music habits, that I listen to a certain band in a certain way, because I would love to bring all the data to my phone and keep it on my phone. Like it's my passport of my data. And I will choose where and who I share that with. So that way I could open up on certain websites that, I actually have this habit on these other services. So here's proof of that. And I could connect into them, showing it via all the data proof that I have from other places. But we haven't come that far yet, which I find quite annoying. And that's what's interesting about Web 3.0, actually, because everybody wants to be able to connect the creators to their fans and share in the fortune that really the creators deserve, which has often gone to the likes of Spotify or YouTube Music instead of the actual songwriters. Because streaming, they earn 1% of a penny over on Spotify, and then maybe a little bit more on YouTube, and maybe more at iTunes, but it's still extremely little. So I would like to pay back directly to the singer-songwriters that I basically stalk, because I'm really into music and they deserve to have the money that I'm actually paying. I don't want to pay the money to a platform. I want to pay the money to the artist.
So a lot of that. So now you're combining the two, right? You're combining again the super fans, but actually in reverse order, which is the super fans want to make sure that the creator is recognized and rewarded. And clearly what we're seeing now is Web3 playing a major role in that. But I think if I'm reframing what you're saying, it really does come down to data. It comes down to who owns the data. And with blockchain, that data is public, and it is the people may not be transparent, but the data is transparent.
Exactly. So there's a potential there, but the question is how you can actually make it function. That's basically where everybody's stuck and trying to work things out right now, which is fair enough. You got to try something to see if it works.
So the question that everyone, besides contact Åsk and hire her because she knows, but who's actually doing a better job right now in that category?
I was about to say, there's been some interesting things that have, specifically for the case of music, where I know somebody who was working on an app or a way to pay royalties directly on sort of a blockchain technology kind of thing. So that if you, for example, you're making a documentary and you find this piece of music that you really absolutely want, you would be able to buy it and pay for it immediately, and it would like be noted as a receipt. So nobody could argue with you when you then put your documentary up on YouTube that you hadn't secured the rights to it. I mean, I love that idea because I would love to make a whole bunch of lawyers obsolete. But
Me
it wasn't
too.
quite working out because the slowest to adapt in this case when it comes to music are, as always, the music companies who have the rights and the royalties to everything. They do not want to try any new ideas. You can go there with like a perfectly functioning system and explain how it works to them, and they'll still refuse to do it because you can't do it unless you have pretty much everybody signing in on it.
I know all about that. I mean, my story, first client of Crayon was Music Loads, which rebranded as Spiral Frog with a very simple value proposition of free and legal music. But in order for it to work, all the record companies had to play nicely together. And guess what? They didn't. I mean, this was the time of Morpheus and LimeWire, and Napster was already off the scene. And all they had to do is just figure out, it's the classic example, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And the enemy was not each other. It's such an old-fashioned way of thinking about business, of competition. Competition generally isn't another company. I heard this example the other day, and I just thought it was like a really, really good sense, which is, when a restaurant opens up, across the road from your restaurant, instead of looking at it as competition, what if another restaurant opens and another restaurant opens, and the next thing you know, you've got Restaurant Row, and now you've created a destination for people to come and more choice and more, bodies, and guess what? Everybody wins.
Yeah, that's exactly what should happen with the music. That's like I'm upset because I know a lot of people who are professional musicians, and I work often with them for other reasons, like doing record covers and that sort of thing. And it's just so many of them have to have day jobs because they can't get supported as musicians anymore. And it might be that they have a very dedicated fan group, but even on Bandcamp, they're not going to be able to make enough money.
It's so interesting to me because I've seen some, we'll stay in the music category, and I've seen several NFT collections and some Web3 initiatives and some DAOs that are trying to reinvent and rethink ownership and rewards. And I think the popular belief is that a fan, how many times have people said, I remember them when they were in a dive bar, when they were, when they were completely unknown. I discovered them, or I started recommending. It's not taking credit, but it's being able to say, I was there at the beginning and they became so big and I got left behind. And so part of that idea is, how do you recognize and reward the first customers? But then the other one is this idea of a flip, which is almost like a crowdfunding or like a Kickstarter-esque type of model that actually says, why can't you invest in a brand so early on through the power of Web3, and then be able to enjoy the ride together? So you have those two forces that I think should and could work together beautifully, particularly in the music business, right?
Yeah, no, that sounds like it has a lot of potential, because you could have, like, I was one of those super fans for early bands, and I'll invest in buying the t-shirts, and I'll buy the vinyl if they pressed it, and I'll buy whatever else they did if they burned some CDs. But it would be better if I just put $100 down on the band itself without them doing anything physical. And then when they actually come out with more and more stuff, I can own a little piece of them. I would love that, because I would be bragging about that band forever. I mean, I do that with bands I find anyway.
And then of course, the other part of it as well is the fact that you can sell it at any point in time. So, there's an exit that can happen for anyone. I'll tell you, I mean, we were discussing the fact that we're writing together, but mainly myself, because it's my sixth book. My sixth book in 7 weeks. The plan is still to write, produce, publish, distribute the book in 7 weeks. And everyone who contributes to the book, from writers to editors to cover designers to, quite frankly, readers, will get royalties. And then this morning in our collective cafe, I think it was this morning or yesterday, I was like, you know what? I could sell my share of my own book. Someone could actually buy my royalties. How cool is that? That someone
That's kind of wild.
Huh?
That is wild. I mean,
it's totally wild.
Yeah. I mean, if a band thing happened and I invested in a band, I know I would be diamond hands. I would not be letting go, because certain bands I'm like dedicated. So they become millionaires and I'll be sitting there with my stock, my little piece, not selling it ever.
And I was just thinking as well that you're talking as a fan, but like myself as the creator, I could even, because it's all just fair game. It's a free and fair market. And so like, I just love the stretch that's happening.
Like any creator, if you sell your big piece, you get a large chunk of money at that time, and then the rest of the royalties go to the buyer. Like when Beatles sold their like catalog.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, Åsk, what I've been doing is a lot of people, I'm not, trying to be controversial for controversial sake. I've never tried to, maybe when I was younger. But I've been thinking about how the space evolves, and I've said, look, I believe Web 2 is the enemy. I'm pushing off against Web 2. And a lot of people are like, no, can't we all get along? And it's not all. And I'm like, no, it's all. Because with Web 2, data has been abused and misused, and we've been bought and sold like commodities, and it's different. It should be different in Web 3. So I've taken the position, which is there's not degrees of taking back our data. It's either ours or it's not. And the price that we've paid by giving it up is too dear. And that's why I feel like more extreme positions, and decisive action has to be taken.
Yeah. So it's difficult for a lot of people, but I mean, I know that many people that I know are trying to do the complete de-Googling. They want to leave Web 2.0 and not be so visible. And here's another problem: when you're not visible, they're going to start looking for the black holes where you don't exist, because socially we have to be on LinkedIn, we have to have a little Twitter account, we have to do this. So people are looking for you and you don't exist there. They're like, that's a little bit weird. Like, why don't you have a social media? So we have to turn that around too. We have to make it so that you can be nowhere, and that's fine. You don't have a Facebook. Like, who wants a Facebook? I shut mine down 12 years ago.
Well, now I understand why, when I was looking at your contact details, I was thinking, why is Åsk not on Instagram? But now I understand.
And that in 2010.
Yeah, so it's all coming back to me now. Bez is here, and he said your health records may be being sold as we sit here today. In fact, I'm sure that they are being sold, not may. Hopefully.
That is so creepy. I mean, there's a lot of we have a lot of data in Sweden that's being stored in various ways, like your driver's license data, your health data, and all that. And so we have a lot of incompetent ministers who shopped for people to handle this data, who put it up on the cloud unprotected. So literally every piece of information about a Swedish citizen was up on an unprotected AWS cloud.
That's crazy.
So we didn't even need to sell it. We just put it out there because they're like incompetent.
I mean, I got to tell you, like it's almost become like resigned, like a resignation, even from a consumer standpoint, which is we're not even shocked anymore when we find out that Marriott's entire database was hacked, or Netflix's entire database was hacked, or even Visa's. We're like, yeah, it's just standard. It's like we almost like expect it to just be out there. And it's an insane concept that we don't just completely all freak out and just change everything. But we don't, because it's just so commonplace. And I guess that's the ultimate danger, right? When we become numb to this abuse.
Yes, exactly. And we're not thinking about all these little places where data leaks. Like, for example, if I'm going to log into the tax ministry in Sweden, I have a lot of tech in order to do that, but some of it is like an app on here. And if this is poorly programmed, the URL might leak my information. Like, people don't even think about small things like that. But
What actually is a leak? Like in this definition, a data leak?
Well, say if somebody could sit between my computer and their server and see that I'm logging into the tax agency, and if they treat this poorly, they could see, like, for example, my entire 4 digits for my personal ID. And the 4 digits are pretty much out there these days, but they used to be like a thing that you keep a secret. You don't tell everybody your social security number, because obviously then can somebody steal your identification. But you could easily do that just by setting up a phishing between like the government websites and people logging in.
But is it also by definition a leak is not necessarily a hack? It's like a pipe that has it is just a poorly designed or poorly managed or poorly handled. Designed.
Like one of the most famous, I suppose, leaks was when AT&T put up like all of their consumer information, like name and credit card numbers, and it was all in just plain text on like one document on their server, and it wasn't password protected or anything. So I can't remember who it was, but he went through everything and he eventually wound up in jail for it.
It's totally insane. And I was thinking also, I mean, again, this is like this episode, I think this show is a real good eye opener for people that I think are trying to like grasp the enormity and or the severity, because like I was thinking, your credit card has what's called a CCID, the 4-digit or a 3-digit super password, but you give it away freely. You have to tell it. You have to tell someone on the phone. Why should you ever give that away other than being able to use a secure wallet kind of connect?
Yeah, and not only that, all of these contactless credit cards, like a friend of mine, he took his phone and he just swiped it above my credit card, and then he was like, oh, so the last thing you bought was a coffee. He was like, really? How did you just do that? And he's like, well, it's a contactless card, and with this app, I can see your latest purchase. It's like, well, that's creepy. And then from then on, I was like perfectly obsessed with keeping like all of this, like Bluetooth leaks, RFID. Like, I don't even want a Bluetooth keyboard. I have a keyboard with a cord. Like, there's so many ways you can leak data that people can pick up in the air, and it's just disturbing. Now I have Bluetooth headphones, but it's because I'm talking to you.
I'm buying some tin foil as we speak, because this is real. I mean, this is real. And, if I've learned anything in the Web3 world now, is that there are hackers and scammers, and they are abundant, and they're always 3 steps ahead of us, no matter what we do and how we do it. And that is scary, but it's the new way of the world. The funny thing is, I always have a quote for my guest. And this, speaking of the new way of the world, this is actually the quote that I found for you. You probably know who said it as well. Data is like garbage. You better know what you're going to do with it before you collect it.
I don't know who said that, actually.
This was the chief technology officer of, I'm just kidding, it was Mark Twain. So it goes back to this idea of like, we should have a clue and we should have an idea of what we're dealing with, and then figure out the best way to deal with it, right?
Right. We collect so much data, like since 1971, I think it is. Every child born in Sweden has their DNA collected, and it's for a medical database so that we could research different types of medical issues. But of course, as soon as you have that data available, the police come knocking on the door once in a while and say, can we double check this DNA with somebody?
Wow.
And that's when it becomes a personal integrity problem, because the baby never consented to that. So anybody having a baby in Sweden, there's a form you can fill in so that they don't take your baby's blood.
Holy shit. I mean, it's like basically, and hopefully they don't take your baby, saying actually you're not the parent of the child. No, I mean, It is definitely scary. Bez says they make money off your data. Imagine if you took control of it back and were able to sell it to whomever you'd like and for as much as you want. You don't have to imagine, Bez. It's called Web3. It's called
Yeah,
Web3.
no, that's exactly the idea. I mean, if you could get a data passport of all your data and then you could trade it for things you wanted, like I want backstage passes to Blondie next week. That's what I want.
Data passport. I like that a lot. Now, someone who is almost as old as Mark Twain is Tom Morris, our resident philosopher, and he submitted this vignette today on privacy.
Hi, I'm Tom Morris. When I was a professor at the University of Notre Dame, I remember one morning when a first-year student came to my office. He sat down for a chat and told me that he was from a small town in Iowa. In the course of our conversation, he told me a story about the way he grew up with very little privacy, where everybody knew everybody else's business in that town. He said, well, the good thing was I could never get in any trouble, because if I did, 5 people would spank me before my mother even heard about it. Well, there are a number of issues that arise from that story. But one is a trope we've long had in American literature, television, film, about the small town where everybody's in everybody else's business. There's very little privacy at all. Everybody seems to want to know what everybody's doing all the time. And as my student's story indicated, there can be a good side of this, right? We know when people are in need. We know when people need to be helped. We know when people are in trouble. But there's another side of this as well, and that's why we have another trope in American literature, television, and film, and that is the small town resident leaving and going to the big city, where he or she can achieve a measure of anonymity and that long sought-for privacy. But then there's another trope, right? If you've watched enough Hallmark Channel movies like I have, you know that the big city professional sometimes has to go to a small town or village on a vacation or on a business trip, and she or he quickly falls in love with the people of the town and all the town personalities and all the town gossip and all the town caring, and then finds a very special person in that town where she or he decides to move back and live the life of community. Well, philosophers have worried for a very long time about what they call the marketplace. One ancient philosopher said the marketplace is a place set apart where men deceive one another. We know that our politics have developed and our business life has developed in such a way as to have insufficient sensitivity to both the issues of privacy and the issues of community. Now, in philosophical history, there's been recognized to be a deep mutual implication between certain concepts that seem opposite, like freedom and order. They seem to be opposite things, but actually we need the kind of freedom that allows for a proper order. We need a kind of order that allows, in turn, for a proper freedom, right? Same thing is true of privacy and transparency or community. We need the sort of privacy that allows for healthy community, and we need the sort of community that allows for healthy privacy. Sometimes things that look like opposites are really mutually implicated internally, and we need to understand that and balance these things harmoniously in whatever we do. Too often, our business lives develop, the culture develops, politics develop without a sufficient recognition of this. But once we do have a philosophy that recognizes the mutual implication of apparent opposites, we can do something about it and try to weave together a healthy way of looking at the two polarities. I hope I've helped you to think about privacy in a different way. Thanks a lot. Happy philosophy.
He's so damn smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I would probably add integrity in there as well, especially when we think about privacy and community as well. So when she's not inventing and fixing the world and fusing creativity and data, That's not what I wanted to show you. This is what I wanted to show you. When she's not running around in her underpants at minus 45 degrees. Tell us a little bit about Adland.tv. I mean, this is OG territory.
Yeah, well, I mean, the core concept of Adlin was that it was a user-generated site to collect all of the advertising that we could potentially put there. Mainly it's me posting the ads, but a lot of other people have contributed with articles and ads as well. And the idea is to archive all of the ads, because when 20 years have passed, the old ads become very interesting from another standpoint. When they're fresh and new, you want to see it because you want to talk about advertising because you work in it. But when they're like decades old, then it becomes interesting from a popular culture standpoint. So we collect the ads that are banned, political ads, ads that are just rubbish, ads that are fantastic, ads that win awards, all of the ads. And anybody who works in advertising can join us and talk about it and comment and write articles about who they hired and who they fired.
I love it, and I love the historical nature of it as well. I wonder if we can, if we'll also be able to, if you'll also start to tag them by. Well, the one category is, and you may have said it already, is all the spec ads that seem to win all the awards. I assume that's there as well.
Yeah, there is a spec ad category, but not everybody's honest about that, it being a spec ad. So sometimes you have to like mark them spec after the fact, because they want to come out like, oh, this is a real ad, and then you discover it wasn't. So that's been a difficult part, because people like to fib a lot. But also a difficult part for me right now is that I find it really, really slow. So I want to like completely rewrite this entire platform in Python instead, which I know is going to make somebody laugh out there, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, well, listen, masochism is the hallmark of an entrepreneur. So visit adland.tv I mean, this has been around. We now refer to it, how long we've known each other, Åsk, in decades. So this has been around for decades.
It's been around for decades. Makes me feel very old.
So
yeah. It was born before YouTube, everybody.
Funnily enough, speaking of which, I actually the other day found, I don't know how, on YouTube, my Nike viral ad that I created when I took when he sunk the putt at the Masters, and instead of just do it, I called it Tiger Did It, and I put it as a WMV file on my blog, because YouTube did not even exist. And all I remember is it's been downloaded.
I swear I have that on Adland.
It's been downloaded over 1 million times initially, just the file, before I put it on YouTube. So much so that someone from Nike with a fake Hotmail address emailed me, and they said, "We just want you to know that everyone in the company is talking about what you did, and I can't." Like this account will self-destruct, but I felt really good about the fact that it had found its way, to Nike. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about what Åsk has been up to, she made the cover for The Rise and Fall of Radius, which is out as an ebook right now. So tell us about. Wait, I've got I can even do that as well. So you did this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I do covers for him all the time. And the interesting thing about that book is that it's about like a 70s type prog rock band. So I basically copied band covers, just updated it, which was fun for me because, like, again, I'm a big music geek. So it was nice to dig up what typefaces and fonts they used in the 70s and then just go with it.
And then I was like, what I love about this is that I say, like, what do you want to promote? And some people come here and there's a lot of stuff they want to promote, which is fantastic. And then what you wanted to promote was this. And you just said, here's some cool stuff I found on sacred.shop. So
yeah, I just bought
why are you sharing this?
I literally just unpacked this because of my obsession with trying to keep my data and my credit cards and everything safe. So I was looking for, those RFID wallets that can protect your credit cards. They're usually mail wallets, basically. And it's just your credit cards. And sure, I could have a mail wallet, whatever. But I found this purse, and it looks like a purse. It's a purse. And in here is a Faraday cage. And those things, if you Google what a Faraday cage or a Faraday cage bag is, are incredibly ugly things.
Yeah,
and this
show it.
This purse in here has a Faraday pocket inside of it. So I can slip my credit cards in here or my phone or anything like that fits in here. And it won't be reachable by Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, RFID, anything at all. No cell towers will be able to reach it. So basically I can go offline whenever I want by sticking it in my purse.
So the only problem, of course, is in order to buy it, you have to give your CCID and your credit card details on the website. But
yeah, maybe they should like put a website up on the dark web or something.
Yeah, you win some, you draw some. It has been it's so fantastic to spend this time together, specifically because everything between us has always been audio. So it's nice to see each other's faces as well. Do not try and find her on Instagram. You will not find her on Facebook, but you can find, as I said, Dabitch is back and better than ever before. And you know who else agrees with me? Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.